your goal is to shoot celebrities, they're not going to come to you. You got to go out to them, and you got to put yourself in the shoes where you have the chance to meet them. So yeah, I got like countless stories of the different types of people that I got to meet. I'm very blessed. And again, bottom line is when you get to meet these people, they're just like regular, people. They just want great images, from your wedding day, and they want somebody that they can trust and they can connect with, and and you end up just becoming good friends with them afterwards.
I would love to introduce you guys the photographer Kenny Kim, who's coming up next. And he's an amazing photographer from Chicago. He's my fellow Korean brother from another mother. And he does amazing destination weddings. So we'll go into a little bit details about how to become a destination wedding photographer. He brands himself as a boutique photographer, just him. So he can be very personal with his clients compared to working with a big wedding photography company that's kind of impersonal. And we're going to just really get to know him and just talk about photography. So let's go.
When my wife decided to jump on board and help me out, I have to admit, I started making twice as much just because, right, when you're a photographer and you're busy shooting and someone calls you, you don't really have time to pick that up or, get back to them till like later that night and your service come, right? So it did help out a little bit more, a lot more with my wife.
Yeah, that makes sense. The thing is, for me, I was already, running my own business before I met my wife. So I was, pretty comfortable running the show on my own. And, I want her to thrive and be successful in her own career. So, asking her to come on and helping me out, I don't think it's really fair. And she does pretty well herself in her job. So, I'm very proud of her for that as well.
That is cool, man. That is cool. Okay. Yeah. So I just got a handful of questions, though. What's up?
Sure. Is the lighting okay? Sorry, it looks kind of orange.
It's a little okay, but it's all good. I can fix that in when I do the edit and all that good stuff. So
okay, cool. Yeah, if it doesn't bother you, then that's okay with me too. So thank you.
So hey, let's see. First off, I want to just kind of get to know you a little bit. So, where are you from? Are you born in America?
No, I was born in South Korea, and I immigrated here when I was 10 years old with my family, and we moved to Chicago because my aunt was already living here, and she had invited us as a host family. So that's how we got my life started. I grew up in Chicago pretty much all my life. Went to school here. Went to college at University of Illinois. I majored in graphic design. And I actually wasn't sure what that major was. I kind of fell into it because I knew I loved the arts and I like doing things creatively. And someone just told me that I should apply to graphic design one day. Ironically, I hated it when I first got into it. The first couple of years, I thought I picked the wrong major. I thought I was going to, fail out of college or something. But it ended up turning out okay. And I got a job as a website designer right out of college, working for a small startup company on college campus. By the way, if I'm talking too much, let me know. You can always stop me. So, yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, so I got a job as a website designer right out of college campus, working down there. And during that time, I was going to a lot of sporting events because, I was a big sports fan. And I noticed that all the photographers had the best seats in the house, like, sitting right on the floor where the action was. So I just, said to myself, man, I got to get down there somehow so I can enjoy the game, at a closer level. Because I was tired of sitting up at these like low, nosebleed sections up in the balcony and things like that. So I found out that you needed a media credential to go down there. And thankfully at the time, our school wasn't very good in sports. So they were giving out these media credentials pretty much to anybody that wanted to come and shoot. And that's how I kind of got my first introduction to, I guess, photography using a camera. And I think what helped was that having a graphic design background helped me to learn about composition, color, balance, and light. So I was able to make good photos. I just had to learn how to use a camera to do it. And then right around the same time, what happened was that all my friends were getting married, and and I was getting invited to all the weddings. So then I just brought my camera along. I didn't know what the etiquette was, so I just took some random photos for fun. And I thought, what? Instead of just keeping these photos to myself, why don't I share it with my friends? And so I just started giving it to them, and then they all loved it. And then they all said, hey, wow, some of these photos are better than a photographer's. And then like rumors started getting around that I was doing this. And then, some people started asking me to, start shooting their weddings. And next thing I know, I'm giving up my full-time job to, to do this instead. So that's pretty much I think how I got my started in my career, as well as like my background and everything.
That's interesting because I feel like a lot of the times, I don't think anybody ever wakes up and says like, I'm going to be a wedding photographer. You know what I mean? So I feel like it's kind of like a destiny, right? You just do your own thing, but all of a sudden it just pulls you, right? And you just all of a sudden you're like, a photographer. So okay, that's cool. So what camera do you use? It's casual.
Oh, right now I'm using a Canon EOS R. I'm switching from the SLR system to a mirrorless system. I think last year was a year where I was just kind of testing it out to see if I can actually use it, and I feel pretty comfortable now that I'm this year I'm gonna go completely into a mirrorless system. I haven't bought the Canon R5 yet, but I think that's the next camera that I'm gonna upgrade to pretty soon.
That's because you were using Canon DSLR, so now you're just sticking to the Canon. Line.
I was using a Canon 5D Mark IV before, and I think it's still a great camera. And what I liked about the EOS R was that it was still using the same sensor that was built into the Mark V, 5D4. So I was happy with the quality of the image. I finally felt like the mirrorless had caught up to the quality that SLR used to be able to produce. So now that that's there, I just had to get used to seeing things like through my viewfinder, and being able to just adjust everything on the fly. And now that I've gotten used to it, I really love the result that I get out of it. So yeah, I've been shooting pretty much mirrorless for the past at least few months, and I'm pretty comfortable with it now.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Now, because of the fact that the mirrorless cameras are so good at taking videos now, do you kind of like, or do you venture around in the video side as well on top of photography?
That's a great question. I thought about it, but I'm so terrible at video. I don't know why. I just feel like it takes a whole new mindset, for me to capture video, because I could just tell the way those guys think and the way they see things is completely different. And I don't think I can switch my hat like that quickly throughout the day. I could probably do video, but if I did, I would have to be dedicated to doing that the entire day, not switch going back and forth. So, I mean, I would never say no, but right now I'm pretty happy with just, doing photography, because I think also what's important is that with photography, I'm not just shooting photos, I'm interacting with the guest, I'm taking time, spending with the bride and the groom and their family members and talking to them, making them feel comfortable, building relationship. So it's like, it's photography and that. So then have to add on video aspect to it, I think it would be much harder to do what I do.
I think that's one thing good about photography. I think a lot of people kind of lose the idea that, for photographer, it's because they love taking photos. But a lot of us just love the human interaction that comes with, like you were saying, getting to know the bride and the groom, and all of a sudden you guys are friends and you get to do all these things and travel. And that's like the beautiful part about photography. Now, talk about travel. I want to talk about your destination wedding as well.
Sure.
When did you first start a destination wedding?
Well, ironically, I started out as a destination wedding photographer first, before I even got into it, before I even knew what it was. And the way that happened was because I was on a college campus. All my friends, after they graduated, they either went to where their job took them or they went back to their hometown. And it was right around the time when social media wasn't really popular, but it was just starting to, butt its state. So to them, they didn't know any other photographers. And the only one they remember was me, the guy that, took pictures. So then they would contact me and be like, hey, Kenny, we're getting married. Would you come out and shoot our wedding? I believe the first destination wedding I photographed was in Maryland. So I'm like, sure. I didn't even know what to expect, but I flew out there. I shot their wedding, got paid a little bit of money. And the funny thing was that when I was there, I told people that I was from Chicago shooting their wedding. So then rumors started going around saying, hey, this guy came all the way from Chicago to shoot their wedding, so he must be really good, So then, because of this rumor, random guests just started coming up to me after the wedding and would ask me if I would come and shoot their wedding. And then it just kind of went from there and went viral through word of mouth. I still remember this one wedding when I got my real quote unquote destination wedding. It was in Bahamas. Someone came up to me and asked me to shoot their wedding. And again, I had no idea how to price it or how to put a package together. So I just kind of came up with a random number. And in hindsight, I realized I actually lost money on that wedding. Then I probably made money. And the couple probably got a deal of a lifetime. But the great thing out of that was that I actually got my work published on a magazine. And on top of that, I think I must have had at least like 6 couples come up to me at that wedding, asking me to come and shoot their wedding. So then it was just domino effect, going from one place to another. Next thing I know, I was probably traveling more than I was shooting my own weddings in my hometown. So I had to market myself backwards to become a local photographer too, because I live in Chicago and I have such an amazing backdrop here. but I was like spending all this time traveling everywhere. So I was like, what am I doing wrong? So I finally feel like, I coin myself as a destination wedding photographer now, and I market myself that way too. But I finally feel like I found the right balance where I shoot about 60-70% in the weddings locally, because I think you make more money doing local weddings. And then I do about 30-40% traveling, which keeps my creativity alive. And I love to travel. So I think, it keeps me from being burnt out of, doing wedding photography for so long.
Oh, that's so cool. So back then, your word of mouth was how you got to become destination wedding. But nowadays, it's a lot different. I feel like there's less word of mouth and there's more social media, more internet advertising. Now, how do you, without giving away all your secrets, how do you advertise to be a destination wedding photographer?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't have any secrets. I'll tell you pretty much what I do. I think even if I share with you, I don't think anyone can replicate what I do as well. What I always tell people is that, take a little bit of what I share, and you can probably apply it to yourself. Not everything I share with you is going to apply to the listener. So having said that, going back to how I do, yeah, you're right. Over the years, it has kind of evolved a little bit, obviously with social media and everything playing a factor. I think I still rely on a lot of the relational marketing because of the relationship that I build with the clients at weddings and the way that I make them feel. I am able to get a lot of referrals through that way. People highly recommend me because of that. I always believe that if I take care of one client, they'll always it comes back to you tenfold. And then on top of that, I do utilize social media a lot because obviously, a lot of people are using it for wrong reasons these days. But at the same time, if you can tap into the resource and use it for the right reasons, I mean, the referral, potentials are like still, amazing out there, utilizing Instagram and Facebook. It's hard for me to go over all this to you, over just one interview, but I've actually written some articles on Rangefinder, which I'd be happy to send you links to if you want to read about it. There's like series of articles I talked about. It's called like unorthodox approach of marketing. And I share various tips on what I do to kind of, get my name out there and build business that way. And believe it or not, thankfully, because of this, I never had to, spend money on advertising. Well, I take that back. I did spend a lot of money on, print advertising, quite a bit, actually, almost like $30,000, worth in the beginning. Because at the time, I was told and advised that that's what I need to do as a wedding photographer. So, of course, I did. I spent a bunch of money on there, and I got zero wedding through that method. Yeah. But, when I just followed my heart and did what I thought was the right thing to do, which was just to build natural relationships organically, referrals just came, that way. So I would say still like 80 to 85% of my weddings are still referral based because of that reason.
Wow. That's because you had to set a foundation and just keep working at it, right? It's not like an overnight thing. You have to build it from scratch, and it becomes like this spread, a domino effect.
Yeah. I think a lot of my brand has to do with my personality, which could also be my Achilles heel as well, because I don't think I can ever expand myself as big of a studio that I want to. But then I don't think I really want to do that either. But because I advertise myself and specialize myself as a boutique studio, I'm able to give that personal attention to all my clients. So I'm pretty happy shooting about 15 to 20 weddings a year, and just shooting good quality weddings. And, and taking care of my clients, with every one of them. And from there, I get, referrals all the time. Now, having said that, this year, it's going to be a little bit different. I have about close to 30 weddings this year because of the repercussion that I have from last season. Because, a lot of my clients moved their dates from 2020 to 2021. So I think the first few months, it's going to be really interesting because, COVID obviously hasn't cleared completely yet. I think we're going to still, find clients that are trying to juggle, the balance between do we invite everyone or do we move the dates, or do we just keep a small intimate wedding and just, move on with our lives. So, I'm learning as I go as well. And I'm just kind of, working with all my clients. Again, this is when I decided that instead of, keeping my business hat on and, and making everyone adhere to the contracts that they signed, I'm listening to their stories, I'm listening to, what their situations are. And obviously they're doing this because of the COVID situation. So, I'm just, literally just working with them, to making things work out so that we can still work together, regardless of whether I shoot on their wedding day, original day, or the future date that they decide on. And so far that's been working out great. So.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Has there been a situation where you had a client that completely canceled and now they're like asking for their money back or anything like that? Or have you been lucky that they've been just super cool about it and, just not.
I've only had one client that asked for their money back, but it was really only their deposit, because, by contract, full refund is due, if you cancel within 90 days of the wedding, but they did that well in advance. So I've only had to do that with one. But fortunately, most of all my clients contacted me first and made sure that I was available on the new date that they're considering before they decide to do that. Because what I allowed them to do was just, take the deposit that they put on there for their current date and then move it to the new date. Because for me, it's like, even if they decide to move, it's not like I'm going to be shooting that weekend anyways because of the COVID restriction. I'm not able to take on the weekend anyways. And then just to be a little personal, last year, my mother got really sick and she came down with cancer. So, and she ended up passing away. So thankfully, for that first 6 months, I couldn't have been able to work anyways. So it was a blessing in disguise that all these weddings got pushed, to this year. And then the second half of last year, I think a lot of couples, what they decided to do was, keep the wedding and just, adjust their numbers to, follow the guidelines. And that in itself was actually a blessing in disguise because when I'm shooting weddings, that only have like 30 to 50 guests, depending on whatever the restrictions were, it almost felt like I was shooting a destination wedding because, that's a typical size of, guests that come to these weddings are anyways. So the only difference was that I wasn't traveling for it, but it provided an intimate experience where I kind of thrive, in that setting. And so I was able to really connect with my clients and my guests. So in that sense, it almost like rejuvenated my, passion for photography again. And I was still able to, quote unquote, shoot my destination weddings, while I was still in Chicago under the quarantine.
You know what? I love that. Do you make an effort during weddings to be personable and just talk to everybody and just kind of get to know so that way you grow your network? Are you like a very friendly type of person when you shoot with?
Yeah, I am. So then you got to find fine balance as well. You got to know when to be social, but at the same time, you got to know when to get your job done. Because at the end of the day, you got to deliver your images, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I do that, like, I don't know if a lot of photographers do or not, but I go to all the wedding rehearsals. Whether they hire me to do it, to cover it or not, as long as I'm free on the night before, I always contact them and say, hey, if you guys are free, I'd love to stop by and go to your rehearsal. I shared that idea like during some of the classes that I've taught, at WPPI, and some photographers thought I was crazy. Like, why would you give up your free weekend, just to go spend time with a bunch of strangers? And for me, like, I thought of it the other way. First of all, I cared about my clients. I really wanted to genuinely get to know not only who they were, but all the important people that surrounded them. I wanted to get to meet them because the more time I spend with them, there's more potential for me to, meet potential, new clients. Whether it be in a wedding party, if there's someone that's getting married, if they see that I took the time to go out and meet with them, they appreciate that so much more. So yeah, almost every time I go to rehearsal, and then when I'm at the rehearsal, I'd say like 8 or 9 out of 10 times, they invite me to their dinner because I'm already there. So then I'm like, sure, I'll go to the dinner, because it allows me to spend more time, in an unobtrusive way. So by the time the wedding day comes around, I already know all the important people that are, that are part of the wedding, and they already feel like they know me as well. So they don't treat me like a stranger, but they, instead, I'm almost like part of the family or like a friend, that they already know. And because of that, I'm able to like penetrate into their lives even deeper and get on a more personal level with them. Now, taking that, what I do is, it allows me to connect with them socially, instead of just doing like cold social, like stalking where I like, randomly befriend people that I don't know. Now that I've built a relationship with them, I can connect with them on social media and stay in touch with them. And I've gotten, a lot of referrals that way as well. Again, that's not my goal. My goal is not to try to get referrals, but it just happens organically like that because of that. So, yeah.
So you just love the human interaction, so you make an effort to get to know them instead of just going and shooting and leaving. Because I realized that when I've shot for other companies and I don't know who the couple is and I just kind of show up and shoot and leave, I feel like I'm employed. Like they don't know who I am. They feel awkward and we're not even friendly. My whole day is kind of awkward compared to like customer, client who we become friends, and then now we're very personal and very friendly and having fun the whole day.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I think that's what I still love wedding photography so much. Someone asked me like, don't you ever get tired of shooting the same thing over and over? And I thought about it. I was like, in some sense, I guess from an outsider's perspective, it does look like, I'm doing the same thing over and over with a different backdrop. But I kind of think of it as like, looking at your finger, your finger. If you look at it, just like, if you look at your finger, it all looks the same. But when you look at it closer, it's like, everybody has a different, thumbprint. So in that sense, like weddings are like that. When you look at it closely, no two weddings are ever alike because of the dynamics of the people that, you get to meet. And I've met some amazing people at weddings, because of that too. And some of the friends that I have now are the guests that I met at weddings, that I still stay in touch with these days.
Nice. Now I remember you earlier mentioned that you advertise yourself as a boutique photographer. Now, what does that mean?
Boutique in a sense that, I'm a very small studio. I basically, work for myself. I don't have a big studio. So a lot of times when clients ask me do you show up or do you send one of your associates? I tell them, I personally show myself up all the time. And because of that, I think I'm able to charge a little bit of a higher price. I think a few years ago, I was struggling with that a little bit because of research. There were so many new photographers that were coming up, because of social media and because of the ease of use of your camera. A lot of photographers were just coming out of woodworks, charging, I guess I would say Walmart prices, where I couldn't really compete with them, because when I gave my clients a quote, they would ask me to, almost discount it by 2/3 of the price, because they said that another photographer was, giving me the same package, for a lot way cheaper. And then I just tell them, the reasoning why is because of what I do and the way I set up my business, and the experience that I provide, cannot compare to what they're going to provide for you. So, and in the end, when they turned me down, I just knew they weren't, my kind of clients, and I understood. I can't shoot every wedding, so I feel like there's a room for everyone. And I've even had some clients that came back to me after the wedding was done, even, telling me that they regretted making that decision, so, so it's just, I guess that's what I mean by, being a boutique photographer in that way.
So when you first started photography, how did you learn? Did you go to school? Did you go to classes for photography? Or was it easy because you were a graphic artist?
Well, graphic artists definitely helped with the composition part of it. I think what I lacked was the marketing side of, wedding photography. And again, when I started out, there was nothing available for me to learn from. So what I did was I went to what any other photographer would do. I went to a bookstore and I stood in front of a bookshelf and a magazine rack and looked up anything possible related to wedding photography. And I really didn't find any resources out there, but I found this one giant magazine called Grace Ormond Wedding Style that kind of stood out to me, not because it was such a huge magazine. So I picked it up and I was perusing through the pages, and a lot of this photos were done by this guy named Mike Cologne, out in Newport Beach, California. And I was like, man, who's this guy? I had to look him up. And he just instantly became my, a mentor. He probably didn't know that he was my mentor, but I was like, going through his website, reading all of his blog, finding out that he did a workshop. And I was basically stalking him online as much as I can to learn from him. So then, I got connected through him, ended up going to his workshops. And then I just, from that, I just ended up meeting a bunch of photographers that I learned a lot from. And then I went to this one workshop that Mike Cologne was speaking at in Columbus, Ohio. I still remember because this is when I was living down in Champaign-Urbana, which is about 3 hours south of Chicago. And I drove almost 8 hours just to go meet with this guy named Mike Cologne in Columbus, Ohio. And what it was I didn't know, but it was an event sponsored by this one photography company. And it wasn't just Mike Cologne, but there were two other individuals there. One guy was named Jeff Yoakum, who used to be the VP of marketing at Pictage. So I became friends with him and learned a lot about marketing through him. Mike, obviously, I learned a lot from him, and we ended up becoming good friends. And then there was another individual named Skip Cohen, who was the president of WPPI at the time. And I was chatting with him for a little bit, and he told me about WPPI. I had no idea what it was. And then he just kind of at that moment heard my story and invited me out, gave me a free registration pass. He said, why don't you come out and, and check it out? So then I took his advice and just went out there. And I had no idea what it was. I felt like a fish out of water. I felt very intimidated. But to be surrounded by all these photographers, and I got to soak in and basically learn from them as much as possible. And that all happened within the first couple of years, I would say, in being in the business. And then after that, just, I just kind of got my foot in the door and got started in wedding photography. I think I kind of took an accelerated course, and learned the business side of it pretty quickly. Obviously, I made a lot of mistakes, along the way, but I think, wedding industry is a very forgiving industry where you can kind of tweak things as you go. So, yeah, and I feel like I'm still learning, even though people consider me a veteran now. It's an industry that's constantly evolving. So I feel like I'm learning new things every day.
Is that how you became an instructor at WPPI? Because to be an instructor there, you got to be out there, known. So you got to become friends with him, and he invited you to become an instructor?
Yeah, I want to say that I wish I had the qualification to be an instructor, but I think they kind of like asked me like through networking, because I went there the first 2 years and I was like pretty much everywhere. I met the right people. I think like my third year going into the WPPI, they asked me if I would want to speak there. I was like, okay, about what? You know? So somehow they gave me the opportunity, and I think what I share from my heart, you know, what I only knew, which was like my background and how I got started, and then just like a lot of these marketing, you know, the tips that I learned along the way, that it was kind of conventional, because again, there was no school that taught me how to become a wedding photographer. I just implemented and made my own rules, and that's what I shared. And I think in the first few years, a lot of people connected with me on that, because a lot of them were in the same journey. So yeah, every year after year, I've been teaching, and then my messages, you know, changed a little bit, because now that I've coined myself as a destination photographer, I still talk about the marketing strategies, you know, to get those weddings, you know, and then while implementing, you know, how to go about running a successful destination wedding studio. So yeah, it's, oh my gosh, it's almost like 14, 15 years now I've been speaking constantly at WPPI.
Every year. Do you also, you also now teach in other courses and other classes, other seminars besides WPPI?
Mm-hmm. I've done a few others. I've spoken at Imaging USA. I've spoken at there's so many now. I mean, I've taught my own workshops. Earlier on, you know, it was popular for photographers to hold their own workshops before the whole online instructions came out. So I did my own workshops for that. I used to bring photographers out to Italy on this tour called Photo Venture Tour. And it was started out as a workshop for photographers, but I still do them now, but it's kind of evolved over the years. Now it's more just like a food and wine experience for anyone that wants to come. And obviously, you'll learn about photography because of my background. And people come and they bring their camera and they take pictures. I've learned that in the end, they just want to come and enjoy like Italy, because, you know, that's where we go. And they just end up just like telling me, hey, Kenny, just take care of all the photos. You know, we just want to enjoy our trip. So I still do that annually. Yeah.
And the teacher at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's cool. And you that every, so once this COVID's over, then you're going to continue back on again?
So we'll go right back on. I've been doing that since 2009, like a couple times a year. Last year was the only time, first time that we had to cancel, obviously, for COVID reasons. And honestly, I don't know if it's going to happen again until next year. I think this year's, you know, washed out too. You know, people are going to probably watch their budget. They're not going to want to travel as much, even if the travel ban gets lifted. I think it's going to take some time for people to feel comfortable. So I'm thinking 2022 is probably when things will pick up again. And it's good for me, because I think I need this year to, you know, make up for all the, you know, work that I've lost last year, and just kind of catch up, because I'm going to have a really busy season starting like around May, if everything goes well.
You're so busy. And I noticed in your website too that you photographed photographed a lot of celebrities. How did you venture off into doing that kind of work that's totally different from wedding photography?
It's really just, again, from networking and just meeting people along the way. One of the things that I've done, well, in the beginning, a couple of the celebrity weddings I photographed was actually as a second photographer, when I was friends with one of my good friends, Bob Davis, who was a celebrity photographer, you know, now too. And I had a chance to tag along with him, and he allowed me to, you know, shoot some of those weddings. And that was one of the ways I got my foot in the door. But then, you know, on my own, I got to meet just, you know, random people along the way. You know, because you and I are Koreans, like I can share with you, one of the clients that I had early on back in 2009 was this guy named Yul Kwan. And he's the guy that won Survivor back in 2006. Mm-hmm. And again, I was introduced to him through another friend of mine, and who I ended up shooting his wedding. So I met him that way doing that. I met just a bunch of other people through sporting networking, you know, through sports, because, you know, my passion is in sports. I have some friends that are professional athletes, so I've been able to photograph some of these athletes' weddings. I volunteer at these non-profit organization that actually one of the former Chicago Cubs player started. So by volunteering my time there, you know, they give me access to these people that I normally probably wouldn't meet on an everyday basis. And through that, I've gotten a lot of work, you know, like that as well. So yeah, just it's just all through, again, just boils down to, you know, just meeting the right people at the right time.
Yeah. Making that effort to go and networking and get to know them, and also being lucky too, because you all had a friend who knew the celebrity and so on. So that's a big plus too.
Yeah, I think, you know, marketing is like fishing. You know, like you can't expect fish to come to you. You got to go where the fish are. So you got to do your research. You got to go to the right spots and throw your cast out there. You know, that's the only way you're going to catch the fish that you want. You know, so it's the same thing with marketing. You know, you got to know your subjects. You got to know your clients. You know, clients are going to, like, if, for example, if, you know, your goal is to shoot celebrities, they're not going to come to you. You got to go out to them, and you got to put yourself in the shoes where you have the chance to meet them. So yeah, I got like countless stories of the different types of people that I got to meet. I'm very blessed. And again, bottom line is when you get to meet these people, they're just like regular, people. They just want great images, from your wedding day, and they want somebody that they can trust and they can connect with, and and you end up just becoming good friends with them afterwards.
Wow, that's really cool. You seem so, if you don't mind me sharing, what else do you do besides wedding photography? You do your Italy tour. You got your, teaching WPPI. Is there any other kind of business you do on top of that?
Business-wise, I think that's pretty much about it. I focus on, weddings. I get a lot of like side jobs because of that. So I'm doing a lot of event photography, whatever else that comes, a lot of referrals comes from my previous wedding clients. So they'll hire me to do different things like that. Aside from that, I think I just enjoy like living life. I learned to merge my professional and my personal life together so that I'm doing both at the same time. I love food. I love traveling. I love wine. So, those are the things that kind of, marriage all into one. So I feel like I'm doing that pretty much every day if I'm not, shooting weddings. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Do you have siblings and kids? If you don't mind me asking?
No, I don't have any kids, but I have one older sister, and I'm surrounded by also wonderful niece and nephews that we get to. I feel like they're our own kids sometimes, because we get to hang out with them so much.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Kim, so Kenny, I would love to end it with a small tip in photography, in wedding photography. If you have anything in mind.
Who's my audience? Who should I give that advice towards or tip?
I would love for you to give it to somebody who is just starting out.
Just starting out. Okay.
They don't know where to go and what to do. Just a small little idea of like. Yeah, that's a very broad question because you have been teaching a lot over our conversations and so on. But maybe on learning how to take your photo, learning how to take good photos. What should you do to learn to take good photos? Is there courses that you could take, or?
I think it just takes a lot of practice. A lot of times, you got to take like 1,000, bad photos to get that one good photo. So I would say, if you're really passionate about it, go and take a ton of photos. But while doing that, learn the business side of photography as well, because those two have to kind of grow together. It's like working out. If you just work on your arms and not your legs, you're going to basically crumble one day. So you got to kind of both work symbiotically together, to grow that part of your business. So I think, just be really well balanced, and I would say just, another tip that I would give is just to learn to be a giver. If you have a talent or something that you're really good at, when you talk to these photographers or people that you want to learn from, find out what you can give to them first before you ask anything in return. And you'll find out that as you give, it's kind of like, playing tennis. You hit a ball to them, it's going to come back to you. So just learn to be a giver and do whatever you can to serve. And as you serve, I think, you'll be well fed as well.
I love that. That's funny also that you mentioned Bob, because I'm a big Bob's fan also. I'm going to be interviewing Bob and his wife, Dawn, next week as well.
Yeah, they're my heroes, and I've learned so much from them. I get a lot of compliments about like how well I light things, and people like love the technique of my lighting. And honestly, like 99.9% I learned from Bob. And just I was able to spend first few years of my career just shadowing him and learning from him. So pretty much anything that he does, again, I can't replicate everything that he does, but I take little bits of what I can and I use that to my wedding. So awesome. Good luck with them. Yeah, tell them I said hello.
I definitely will, man.
Yeah.
Kenny, thank you so much for this conversation, man. I totally appreciate you, man.